Hello and welcome to another edition of And Did Those Feet, the only football history podcast on the internet where you don't get a hydration break. And I'm joined as always by Karl. Hello, Karl.
Hello, Peter.
Karl, today we're going to discuss one of the great centre forwards of English history. Centre forward is the prestige position in English football. I reckon there's something like four or five greats here. I don't think the word is misused. I reckon Dixie Dean, Tommy
Yeah.
Lawton, Nat Lofthouse, Alan
Mhm.
Shearer, Harry Kane. We don't use the word great very often, but we're justified in using it here, aren't we?
For Tommy Lawton, I would say definitely. I think his record totally stacks up against those other people that you've said, without a doubt.
He had an amazing
He's
meteoric start to his career, didn't he? Because he joins Burnley at 16. At 17, he's transferred to Everton. At 19, he's got 2 seasons behind him of First Division leading scorer and a league championship medal. What are his other achievements?
yeah, well, it really is extraordinary. I mean, he was clearly a very good athlete because he was a very good cricketer playing for Burnley Cricket Club, which I think that part of the world, that's you've got to be a decent standard, and he was doing that at a young age. Came through at Burnley, and as you say, bought when he was very young by Everton, who were very much one of the giants of English football. And like you said, his first two full seasons, he was top scorer in the league, and in the first of them, but for his goals, Everton maybe would have been relegated. They were fighting against relegation, and he was the shining light in that team. And then, as sometimes happened in those days more than it seems to do now, bad seasons will be followed by good and vice versa. And in the next season, his goals didn't just help keep Everton up; they helped Everton to win the league. So he's this very young player, signed from Burnley, and like I say, 2 seasons in, top scorer in the league both times, saved them from relegation, won them a league. It's difficult to imagine anything much better, really.
No, and I mean, who doesn't wish that the league was still like that, where you can come near the bottom of
Mm.
one season and win it the next? He's got a lot of firsts, or a lot of. I mean, he's the first. I think he's the youngest centre forward to play in the league when he plays for Burnley. Burnley are in the second division, as you say.
Mm.
His goals saved them from going down. He gets a transfer to Everton for 6,500, which doesn't sound an awful lot, but it's a colossal sum for a 17-year-old in those
Yeah,
days. It's not. It's. I think it's a record for a teenager. Another record
yeah, it
for a
was.
teenager.
Yeah,
He then gets all those goals, which in keeping up uh, Everton, and then winning the title with them, and then the war intervenes, and really, he's 19 when Hitler invades Poland, and his career is basically put on hold. We can talk about the war years and what we think of the football that took place in the war years, um, but let's just first of all reflect on what might have been. Can we do that? He loses
mm.
7 seasons here. His
Yeah,
international record, 23 games, 22 goals. I was speculating about this. 7 seasons. Let's say there's 8 internationals a season. That's 7/8 of 56. So add that to his 23 games he plays. So we're talking about 70, not 80. Let's say 80 games. Well, he scores a goal a game.
yeah,
But for the war, this guy has got 80 games, 80 goals. It's an
yeah,
extraordinary achievement, but it's a tremendous sense of loss in many ways. It's remarkable that he had a career at all, given what he lost the middle 7 years from 19 to 26 to that. Let's talk about England, because he gets an England cap aged, I think he's nine. I think he's just 19, actually, isn't he? I think he might just be
yeah,
19.
yeah,
It's a pretty good start.
yeah. I mean, as in his club football with Everton, he's start turn from the off, a phenomenal player at a young age at international level.
He gets 8 caps before the war. He scores in the first 6 of them. So this is not somebody, he got six goals in 8 games. It's not somebody who banged in 4 against Northern Ireland, if I can put it that way. This is someone who scores game after game. And the
Yeah,
first 6 games he plays, he scores. As I say, 8 games. The war starts when he's 19. So at the age of 19, look at what he's achieved by the age of 19. And a regular international berth, twice leading scorer in the first division, a league championship medal, plus a tremendous background in training and being sort of tutored in the art of the centre forward by Dixie Dean, of all
yeah.
people. What did he learn? What did he
I
learn
think
from Dixie?
I think Dixie Dean is a really interesting part of the story because in one way, of course, Lawton made the right move by going to Everton because he was so successful. And yet, in a sense, it was the one club that he could go to and maybe not be quite as popular as he might have been because he was replacing this absolute legend at Everton. And Lawton tells the story of going to Goodison and the conductor on the tram saying, "Oh, you're that young Lawton, aren't you?" "Yes." "Well, you'll never be as good as Dixie." And okay, it's just an anecdote, but I think there's something. It does tell you something because Dixie Dean didn't stay there all that long after Lawton had arrived.
No.
Um, and sometimes Lawton was playing instead of him. Sometimes, uh, right at the start, Lawton played the odd game at inside forward, didn't he, in
Yeah.
order to play alongside Dean. But essentially, he replaced him,
Mm.
and I don't know. I think that's a slightly two-edged thing for him. I don't want to say the Everton fans resented him, but there was a sadness about losing Dixie Dean.
Dixie Dean himself was very generous about this, wasn't he? He recognised that Lawton had been acquired,
Yeah,
transferred in order to replace him. And he gave him a lot of training, a lot of tutoring. For
yeah.
example, the photograph behind you, I think, is a classic picture of Tommy Lawton, leaping really high because he's known for his leap. And he's known too for his ability to hang at the peak of the leap, to hang in the air. Now look at that. He's absolutely whipped that goalkeeper
Mm,
who's got his hand, who's got, the benefit of punching the ball, but has missed it completely. That's a goal, I reckon.
yeah.
That is Dixie Dean all over. That's the big leap and the robust physical presence
Mm.
and winning the header and hanging in and this is he's Lawton is famed for the brilliance of his heading.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
Stanley Matthews said that Dixie Dean was the best header of the ball that he ever saw. And clearly Matthews had a very long career at the highest level and was used to putting crosses across for extremely good centre forwards to get on the end of. But
yes,
in Matthews' view, there was nobody to match. There was nobody to match Lawton as a header of the ball.
I like Matthews's description of Lawton as essentially predatory and immediately distinguishable. So if you're looking at a pitch with 22 players on it, you immediately know which one is Lawton. Big, tall, robust, tremendous shot in both feet,
Ah,
tremendous in the air, impossible to contain at his best. I think the photograph behind you. It's interesting. That is a wartime photo. Let's come on to the war. Yours is the wartime.
yeah,
Mine is late Lawson. Mine is. Do you recognise the strip?
that's Brentford, isn't it?
Yeah, I reckon so. Yeah, I reckon it is. So, and that's
Mm.
Lawton in later life. Uh, some 15 years later, he had such a long career. So the war comes, and Lawton signs up pretty much straight away, doesn't he? I don't think he wants to,
Yes,
but I think that the call to arms is met, and he's joined by
yeah.
January 1940. I think he's in the army. What happens to him in the army? Is it do you
So
have a
he's
good war?
like a lot of footballers. He became a PT instructor, didn't he? Um, so he that was that was his primary role was a physical training instructor. But they did. It strikes me they did play a lot of football. I mean,
It
doing
is.
this series with you, it's something that I don't think I'd fully appreciated before, just how much football was played.
Mm,
And okay, we talk about a player losing his career because of the war, or
yeah,
losing a big part of it.
yeah,
And obviously that's true because there wasn't the league championship in the same way in the FA Cup. The football that was played was, was a hodgepodge. It was guest players,
yes.
competitions run in strange ways because you couldn't guarantee games being played. Teams wouldn't play the same number of games as each
No,
other in a league. So it was decided by goal average rather than points. And players played for a variety of
it
clubs.
is.
So you read about Dean's time in the war, and 1 minute he's playing for the army, the next minute he's playing for England. Then it's a game for Aldershot, who he
Yes,
played, I don't know how many times for Aldershot, lots of games for Aldershot. And then he's playing at Everton,
that's right.
uh,
He was
and
stationed at
guess
Birkenhead,
for somebody
apparently.
else. And you hear, strange stories like, was it that England played Wales at Wembley,
Yeah.
and a famous player played his first international that day.
Yes. Ron
That was
Burgess.
Stan Mortensen,
Ah, right. Yes.
who came on as a substitute
Mm,
for Wales
yes.
because Wales didn't have a 12th man and somebody was injured. So
I,
the
I,
Englishman Mortensen came on and played for Wales against England. Uh, just a good example of how wartime football was all over the place. So there was a lot of it played,
there was.
and you can clearly see from his record that Lawton was an extremely good player through that time. He clearly was very fit. The probably being a PT, PT
Yeah.
instructor it allowed people like Lawton to maintain their fitness,
He
and they
was
did play a lot of
naturally
games.
very fit, wasn't he? Look at him. He's got just the right sort of frame for
Yeah,
what he's going to do. Um,
I think I read that there was some athletics event
yes,
in Aldershot,
he wins everything, doesn't
uh,
he?
and he won the 100 meters and he won the long jump.
That's right. Yes.
And obviously he was going up against some properly, fit young men doing that, and but Lawton was the most athletic of them.
He must have been a thrilling sight to watch because of his pace and power, and nose for goal, as well. I'm a bit troubled about the wartime internationals. Part of me thinks they should be recognised as. By the way, just to make the point, Lawton scores again at a rate of over a goal a game in these wartime
Yeah,
internationals. I mean, the statistics I've got are 18 internationals, 22 goals, but I've seen different statistics for these wartime
I've
matches.
seen different ones because I think I saw a reverse of because it was 23 and 22,
That's right.
23
Yeah.
appearances, 22 goals in the recognised internationals.
Yes.
I think the other way round, 23 goals in 22 in the
Yes.
wartime.
Yes. I'm not actually. I'm
But
not. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
so it's
not that
something
happy with
like
my
that.
stats.
And I know what you mean. In one way, it seems to perverse to not count them
Yeah.
because these clearly were top quality
They
players.
were the best available.
Yeah,
That's how
absolutely.
internationals work.
And yet, I suppose when you get, and I know that Mortensen anecdote is an extreme example,
Yeah.
but when you have things like that makes you think, well, it's not quite the same thing. I mean, maybe the wartime internationals should be talked about more,
Yes. And understood better.
uh,
Yeah.
but maybe there still does need to be a sort of divide, saying this between the peacetime and the wartime.
I suspect, Karl, that his his war. I mean, let's be honest. He gave up an England career, if you like, a professional career time. He gave up. I mean, in fairness, we have to say respectfully that he gave up less than a lot of people who gave up much more
Yeah,
than their career. And actually, there were a lot of people who gave up their career. I'm torn between wondering whether this wasn't the most exciting football he played in his life. You know, he going to Hampden Park and playing in front of 135,000
Mm.
in a wartime international, everybody in khaki. I mean, in some ways, it must have been an exhilarating time. I don't mean to underestimate it, but it was
No,
a time of great purpose, of camaraderie, and at the same time, he was among the lucky ones, really, because who wouldn't want to do what? I mean, if you're going to be in a war, if you're going to be in a total war like the Second World War, who wouldn't like to be doing what he did? And
yeah,
so I'm
yeah.
torn between wondering, do we sympathise? Well, but I agree with you, rather, if we could find some grey area where, or some halfway house where we could say he played in 45 internationals and he got 45 goals,
Mm.
which again reinforces the point that if he played the number of games that he should have played, he'd have had 80 goals. And there's only one player who's got 80 goals, and I think they belong in the same class. These guys,
Yeah.
these two. So anyway, the war comes to an
And I think
end.
the other thing as well is when you compare our era to back in the day, you lose things like other representative games. You know, the Football League playing the Scottish League,
That's right.
things like that,
Yes.
which of course we wouldn't have a game like that now,
No.
but they did. And they were very similar to international games. And in
Correct.
wartime, you've got the added um, confusion of what do you do with a game that's between the British Army in England versus the British Army in Scotland?
Yes. Yes. Quite.
You know,
Yes.
games like that, which were sort of international football matches.
Yes.
You know, the clearly the best 11 players in the army back then was a seriously good team.
Of course. Absolutely. I was struck by how many of the somewhat elderly managers of my youth, Joe Mercer, Don Revie, and so on, well, turn up in these wartime games.
Mm.
They're Shankly, of course, Busby. Um, they dominate the scene in the forties.
Yeah, I mean, Mercer especially seemed to play in a lot of the same games
Cullis,
as Lawton. Obviously, they both played for England. They'd been at Everton together
yeah,
before the war. You still had Everton games in the war when they played together, and they played together in the army and for Aldershot.
yes, that's right.
Um,
Yes, for Aldershot, yes,
and I mean, again, as an indication, I think I read somewhere that there was a season with Aldershot where they had something like 72 players playing for them in the season.
right.
Because there's that many people passing through Aldershot,
Yeah, of
as it
course,
were.
yeah, yeah. Oh, they had the best team in
Um,
the country.
yeah,
Didn't last.
it's yeah, strange times. So it kind of is it is a difficult one, like you say, because they're kind of losing their careers, and yet they're also playing a lot of football.
And it's a thrilling period. I mean, perhaps
Mm.
I'm I don't know. Perhaps I'm offending
No, but
taste
I
here.
mean, it no doubt was very important to people to.
I'm not talking here about people like Bob Paisley who got blinded in the Western Desert, by the way.
No, absolutely. I mean, people that were able to go to these games and watch the games in the war, what that must have meant to them. I mean,
Absolutely.
how can I mean, the nearest thing, and it isn't remotely near, I think that we can relate to is maybe COVID. You know, when there's
Yes.
no games and then during COVID time, you can put the TV on and watch a
Yes.
football
Yes.
match.
Yes. Yes.
I think that's the nearest, but of course it's not. It's
No.
not remotely close
No, that's right.
to the experience of watching those games in the war. And I mean, you're right. Lawton did not have um, the hardest of wars compared to some people, but I don't doubt that playing football in the way that he did, that it did make a contribution to morale in the country. I
100%.
think I think they played the part.
There was, by the way, some bitterness, wasn't there, towards the end? But some of the players were called D-Day Dodgers. Uh,
Yeah,
Lawton's response to that in one of his books, it might be the 20 Years of Soccer book, is to say, well, I agree. I understand. they'd seen their best friends shot next to them. They come through hell. And he had a cushy. I mean, he was very honest about. I think he's a very honest bloke generally, but of course that's ironic because he ends up in all sorts of financial troubles.
Yeah,
We'll come to
yeah,
that, but I think he's one of those guys. I get the feeling with Lawton, he always speaks his mind. He can't help himself, and
yeah.
he's a barrack room lawyer and so on. Well, you're now going to find out a bit more about that because he hasn't really got a reputation for that yet, but he's going to get it. One
Yes.
last thing we must mention is that of a happy occasion, but I'm being ironical, is he gets married in the war. In
Mm,
1941, he gets married to one Rosaline, I think her name was. And it doesn't last, but it ends in quite excruciatingly embarrassing and unpleasant um, way. And in the end, I think she has 4 divorces, of which he is
right.
just first.
Yeah.
He was not well served by her, and she was not a good choice for him. Nevertheless, the war comes to an end, and he is now married. But that is worth mentioning because he now wants to leave Everton and move south. And there's a dispute here about why he wants to do this. On one side, you've got English Football Online, England Football Online, which a great website, don't get me wrong, which argues that he's moving south because he wants to save his marriage. So he wants to leave
Yeah.
Everton and he wants to go south. On the other side, most of the biographies, and I think the autobiographies too, say that he's going south because he wants to protect his wife's health. His wife's in
Yeah.
poor health, we understand. And now this is an age of euphemism, especially on matters of marital relations. And it's probably impossible to. I would just say that if he's going to move south, he's got the obvious choice is Portsmouth, I would have thought, who, after all, are one of the top teams in the country and are as south as you can get. It probably wouldn't be smog-filled West London if you wanted to preserve your wife's health. But nevertheless, that is the choice. So he puts the transfer request into Everton, and very reluctantly he's granted uh, a break, a move, and he goes to Chelsea, and he has a season with Chelsea. Is that a good season, or how does that work out?
I mean, Chelsea are very much the lower end of the first division, aren't they? But he, I mean, he banged in some goals, didn't he? Or
Got
what?
30 goals, yeah. Oh yeah,
He,
the stats are
you know,
really interesting.
26 got. I've got the facts in front. 26 goals in 34 games in the league.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay, I
is
got
that
30
right?
goals in 42, but maybe I'm including the FA Cup goals there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He got 30 goals, including in the cup. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. In the league, it was 26 in 34 games. But
right.
yeah,
And that's interesting because I've got
but
this other
yeah,
stat.
four goals and 5 games in the cup.
Okay, that would make sense. I've got this other stat which says that Chelsea scored 69 in total. So they've got, I
Yeah,
mean, he's scoring something like 40% of their goals.
yeah.
That's an unhealthy position to get into, especially if you're going to get into a row with your star centre forward who's providing most of your goals, which is what Chelsea did by the end of this season. Do we know? I mean, let's agree. This is quite a successful transfer from Chelsea's point of view. They pay 14 grand, which is just under the
Yeah.
record. Bryn Jones has got the record. I think a bit under it. Chelsea finish up nowhere at 12th or somewhere. So without his goals, they would have been at, yet another team, which without his goals, they'd have been in right or
And
well,
and his
well
biography I
bother.
was reading, there's a suggestion that his role changed slightly.
Oh yeah,
He started to come deeper and become
yeah,
a bit more of a provider.
yeah.
And maybe I suppose that can happen as a player gets older
Hmm.
and more experienced. But obviously, it can also happen when um, a top player like Lawton is maybe not getting the service that
Yeah,
he'd
yeah,
really like, and
yeah.
he has to go looking for the ball deeper himself.
Yes.
But I think it says something about his ability that he could do that because that he had more to his game than just being um, one of the
A finisher.
best battering rams and finishers and good in the air and a powerful shot, all of which made him a great player. But he'd got some more to his game. He got some more to his game as well.
Karl, in one of his books, I think it's Football is My Business, published in 1946. He says when England went to play Switzerland directly after the war, game they lost, by the way, I think. He says the Swiss played with a deep lying centre forward. There's no doubt about that. And I think there's no doubt that Lawton himself becomes a deep lying centre forward at Notts County. We come on to that next time.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's quite clear. And as you say, he reminds me again of Kane in that sense. He's playing.
Yeah, I was thinking
He's
of
playing
Kane,
around
yeah.
the D. He's brilliant in the air, but he's playing around the D. As you say,
Yeah.
he's not getting the service. And so now he falls out of Chelsea at the end of a very successful season. He might as well stay there because he's playing for England. He's got his old England spot back. He plays, I've got something here. Oh, he plays 10 games for England while he's a Chelsea player. So he packs them in, plenty of games there. By the way, one thing that's worth mentioning about his England career, do you know that he's never dropped by England? He plays in the 219th international, or game 219, right, and he plays all the way through to game 241. He's never dropped. So we talk about Alf Ramsey with these 30 consecutive appearances, and it's very impressive. I mean, Lawton is just, as they say, first name on the team sheet. But anyway, that's another story. We'd say Lawton is a barrackroom lawyer with a tongue in his head. End of the 1946-7 season, that's the first season after the war, Chelsea are going on an end-of-season tour. Is Lawton going with them?
Was that the one? Was it to Sweden?
Sweden, it was. Well, of course, big, great football at Sweden.
Yeah, absolutely. And he wasn't for going, was he?
He wasn't for going, and so he basically how was that resolved?
Oh, did he just refuse to go?
That's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people who say, there are writers who say, had Chelsea explained that the one reason why they were the player that everybody wanted to see was him. That's why why they're booked on this tour. They haven't got any other stars. Chelsea are going to Sweden because they've got Tommy Lawton. Could you find a way? Could we find a way? Could we find a middle ground to make this happen? And the answer, unfortunately, was no. They couldn't find a way. And Lawton, who's, as we say, keeps a tongue in his head, simply refuses to go. And he goes onto the transfer list, and he's eventually transferred to a most surprising destination. And we'll save that for next week because this is part one of the two-parter. But where we got to so far, Karl, which is Lawton is probably, I mean, this is a brilliant period of English football, especially of forwards.
The forward line immediately after the war is absolutely outstanding.
Go on. Finney,
well,
Matthews.
I mean,
Mannion.
Tom Finney is, right up there among the best players that England have ever produced, I think.
Yeah.
You've got to say that.
Yeah.
Matthews was probably the biggest name in English football or even world football at the time. Not the all-round forward that Finney was, but clearly a great winger.
Yeah.
Lawton is right up there, as we've been saying. And then you've got other players, some of the inside forwards they could choose from, like Mannion. Mortensen was coming through.
He was, yeah.
They're absolutely fantastic. And you look at some of the results.
Yeah. Portugal.
Beating Portugal 10, away 10-1. It's sort of, ridiculous.
Italy are the reigning world champions. What happens to them?
Yeah, they're a win away to Italy.
4-0. It totally turned over.
Yeah. So it was a great time for English football, and I think maybe because of the disaster of the 1950 World Cup, we kind of maybe lose just what a good side it was a little bit before then.
I think one of the reasons why Lawton is forgotten, partly forgotten, largely forgotten, is because the one club men, the Finneys, the Billy Wrights, the Mortensons, the Lofthouses, are quite easy to like. They have, in a way, quite sort of straightforward careers. And Billy Wright plays for Wolves in 45 or 46, 47. and he does 13 years and then he retires. Finney, rather the same.
Yeah.
Lawton's career is so. I remember Peter Ward of Brighton describing a football match as a bit bitty. Well,
Yeah.
Lawton his career is a bit bitty.
Yeah.
I think that might be one of the reasons why he's quite difficult to pin down. Anyway, whatever. The fact is that he has 10 years as England's best centre forward at a time when England is teeming with great centre forwards.
Yeah.
And next week, we will discuss what happens next after he gets his move from Chelsea. So that's our lot for this week. And thanks, Karl.
Thank you, Peter.
And we'll see you next time for Tommy Lawton Part 2.